welcome back to 17 square meters garden. It's a beautiful sunny spring morning. Just had my morning coffee on the balcony and it feels so good to be able to go out again, to just sit, to take the sun and to enjoy your coffee. It's warm enough to do it, finally. So yeah, anyway, I have a very quick project to do today on the balcony, which is to finally plant my fruit bushes. So my blueberries and my white currants. So I will take you along and let's go. Okay, so here's my setup. I'm gonna show you what varieties I'm gonna plant. So here we have blueberry pink lemonade. It's a very popular variety to grow in pots. We have Brigitta blue and my white currant, which is called Blanca. So I'm not gonna call this video like a tutorial or like a proper how-to plant blueberries kind of video, because it's actually the first time that I'm gonna grow them myself in pots. I am more or less familiar with growing different fruit bushes because, because of my studies and because I come from a gardening family. And we had a lot of fruit bushes. Growing plant in pots is way different from growing them in ground. There are different things to take in consideration. So let's say that this video is gonna be more of a let's plant and see. Let's see what happens and how this project goes. But nevertheless, let's talk about a few principles of growing blueberries in pots, because white currants, they are pretty straightforward, there is not much to it, but blueberries, they are a little bit more demanding. Blueberries, they absolutely need an acidic pH. They need a pH between 4.5 and 5. And it is only in acidic soil that they will produce, that they will grow healthy. If the pH starts to be too high, the plant will not produce and it will get chlorotic and it will just look very, very bad and it will be very unhappy. So I actually checked out a few other people who grow blueberries in pots, how they grow it, what potting mix they use and stuff like that. And honestly, as many people, as many ideas and methods, and everyone is using something different. Everyone just, adds different things to their soil. I'm gonna keep it really simple today. And just one very funny anecdote that I wanted to tell you is, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna buy an ericaceous potting mix. I'm gonna buy finely shredded pine bark because I saw a lot of people use it, because pine bark or pine needles, they are often used as acidic compost because they are acidic, so they will acidify the soil. So I went to the garden center, the only garden center in my area that apparently had pine bark. And I got there and I asked to the guy, because I couldn't find it, I asked to the guy, yeah, so I'm searching for a finely shredded pine bark. And he says, we don't have it. But why do you need it? Maybe I can advise you something else instead. And I tried to explain him that, yeah, I'm gonna mix a potting mix, so I need this pine bark because it's acidic. He says like, you don't need a pine bark, you just buy yourself an ericaceous potting mix. And I said, yeah, I already bought it, but I want to further acidify the soil and, to make sure that the soil stays acidic. And we ended up having a good laugh and we talked about soil acidification, and he told me, you absolutely don't need a pine bark. Pine bark is great when you have like high alkaline soil and you want to just naturally bring that pH down, then you put that acidic mulch on top of soil. But when you put in pots, or when you already start with acidic soil, like today I have my acidic potting mix, he says you absolutely don't need it. Just plant your plants in acidic soil and you are good to go. Yeah, let's just plant the plants and then I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about how I'm gonna take care of them. Also, one other important thing that I forgot to mention is that everyone recommends to start with a really large container. And I think that my pots are a little bit on a smaller side. So if you can take even bigger pot. And also, important thing with blueberries is that pay attention to what is written on the plant tag, because some varieties, they need another variety to cross-pollinate to be able to produce fruit. Some cultivars are self-pollinating. For example, both of these are self-pollinating, so it means that if you have only one of those, that will be perfectly fine. They will be able to produce fruit just by themselves. But some varieties need two or even more to cross-pollinate to make sure that they set fruit. Tactic that I learned recently is to place your pot in the center and to put soil all around, and then once the soil is firmly all around the pot, you just remove the pot and you put your plant back in and you have a perfect place for your plant. I'm also gonna add some compost to add organic matter to boost, to support that soil life and to provide later on nutrients for my plants. Okay, and look at the trick now. You remove your pot. I'm gonna tip the extra soil. Okay, gently remove your plant. There we go. And we have a perfect hole to plant. Isn't that genius? I'm gonna top it. So I know it's a bit high. I'm gonna top it with an extra layer of compost and then mulch. And the same here. Pack the soil firmly. Remove the pot. And straight into the hole. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm gonna quickly pot the white currant. And white currant doesn't need acidic soil, so you pot it in classic universal potting mix. So now that my plants are planted and I watered them, I'm gonna add a layer of mulch. And I really recommend that you do it whatever vegetables or fruit bushes you plant, because mulching prevents water from excessive evaporation. It's also good for weed suppression. So I'm gonna use wood chips. Okay, so a few last words about maintenance, how I'm gonna take care of my blueberries especially. As for fertilizing, I'm fertilizing every one of my plant with an organic fertilizer. So now when they are in the growth stage, so they are growing, they are putting on leaves, I'm gonna fertilize them with Alga Grow. I have that fertilizer linked in the description if you want to read more about it. And then I'm gonna go with Alga Bloom once they start to bloom, once they are fruiting. So that's what I'm gonna do, because even though we added compost is great. It's absolutely amazing to add compost to your soil for the soil life, to enrich the soil, but it's more of a slow release nutrients, because first you need those soil organisms to further decompose it to release nutrients to your plants. So when they are putting on when they are flowering, when they are bearing fruit, you may still need to add organic fertilizer so that they have enough nutrients to be able to flower abundantly and then to produce berries abundantly. And as I mentioned about the pH, now that I planted them in acidic soil, they are going to be fine probably for this season. But I want to keep this pH all the time acidic. I don't want to have to repot them again next year to acidic soil. Each time I will water or fertilize my plants, I will try to acidify the water. So I'm using a product that is called pH Minimum. So it lowers the pH. Basically, it's a citric acid, the product that I'm using. So I'm gonna acidify that water to all the time give that acidity to my plants so that the pH of the soil is not getting higher. So that's it for today's project. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you are also growing blueberries in pots, of course, do share all your tips. Tell me what worked for you. I'm very curious to learn more. Maybe you have some methods that work for you incredibly since many years. I would really appreciate your advices on that, because it's the first time I'm growing them in pots. So yeah, we'll see. I will give you some updates later on in summer, and I'm curious to see how it goes. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!